Welcome to the second episode of Integrating with LiveKit. So today I'm going to talk about four things. So the first thing is going to be giving you a walkthrough of the LiveKit dashboard. In particular, I'm going to talk about the telephony settings on top of inside of LiveKit. The second thing I'm going to do is actually set up our actual development environment and walk through the actual agent code. I'm not going to go in super duper deep detail, but I am going to get to a level of detail that you'll understand how you could retrofit this to fit your use case. The third thing I'm going to do is that we're going to go over to Twilio, which will be acting as our carrier today, and we will configure it to actually route calls to our LiveKit agent. And then lastly, what we'll do, we'll actually use the LiveKit CLI in order to tell LiveKit that uh, Twilio, in particular, the phone number that we're using will actually is allowed to call into our LiveKit server. Okay. So that's what we're going to do today. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so what you're seeing here is the LiveKit interface, and in an overview page here is what you expect. It kind of gives you a high level view of what's going on inside of LiveKit. Everything from the number of connections, the platforms being used as your agents, total upstream, downstream bandwidth being used, how many participants are being used currently. So LiveKit is based on WebRTC concepts. And so what that means is that typically in a WebRTC configuration or when somebody's implementing WebRTC, a lot of times they're leveraging it or building a concept of a conference room where there's multiple people connecting and you're using it as a way of doing web conferencing. So inside of LiveKit, since that's the root of LiveKit, is that you're going to find this whole concept of a room. So what's going to happen is that, let's say in our example here, we're going to have a caller call in using our Twilio number. They're going to actually be pushed into a room or be added into a room. And then what's going to happen, the AI agent is then going to be sent to that room. And then the AI agent will start communicating with the caller. So the people that are in the room, those are called participants. So that's what you're seeing here is where you'll be able to see how many participants have been used on your particular project inside of LiveKit. And as I guess as I just talked about it here, this is the total room sessions that's happened over the last 7 days. As you can see, the last 7 days, average room size is 2, which makes sense because again, when callers call in, that's one participant. The second participant is the actual agent joining the room, and then the average room duration is 38 seconds. So there's tons and tons of stuff here, and if you want to, since we're going to be very focused on how do we interact with LiveKit via SIP, this dashboard also goes through all the telephony pieces as well. So more there, we'll talk about it more as we get to going. The other section here is the telephony section, which pretty much kind of gives you some of the stuff that we saw in the overview section, like active number of calls, calls of issues, average call duration, but it's on its own little dashboard here. So again, we'll come back to this as we get to going. The one thing I'll talk about right before I hit the settings here is that you have a little drop down box. So it is multi-project. So if you have multiple projects, you could create another project here and you can have multiple projects inside of LiveKit. I only have one, which is called the LiveKit-agent. Settings is where most of the stuff that we are going to be needing in order to run our agent is located here. So you have the project name, which you can change, which I did change. So my original project was a Microsoft Teams, and LiveKit integration demo, right? I just want to show that you could call LiveKit, or Microsoft Teams can call in the LiveKit in order to start a particular session and all that good stuff. But I wanted to change the name here, but you can't change the project URL. Now, I could have just created a whole new project and all that good stuff around it, but it wasn't that deep. So I just left the project URL being the kind of part of the old name that I had. The other thing is that it's important to us is going to be the fact that every project comes with a SIP URI. So this means that we can route SIP calls to us. So this is what makes me like super happy about this, is that it natively supports SIP. You know, I don't have to do anything crazy. And again, I'm on the cloud version of LiveKit. Now, you know, there is the ability to run LiveKit in your own environment, but then you have to like, set up the telephony piece and all these other pieces to go along with it. I prefer not to do that simply because I'm trying to get away from actually managing a whole bunch of infrastructure. I rather pay for a service. In this case, LiveKit is actually free in the tier that we have, and it's a pretty good free tier. I would definitely check it out. I think you get like 1,000 minutes with LiveKit, and those are like 1,000 minutes of you being able to interact with the live agent, the LiveKit agent via SIP. So that's pretty cool. So for the project settings, that's all I really care about. I can add team members if I wanted to work on, have multiple people working on this project. API keys. So I've already have one here. I'm just going to generate another key, or I'll just say create a key. And I'm going to say demo 2. And when I do demo 2, it actually generates everything I need here. The WebSocket URL, which is basically just the name of this project, pretty much. The API key, the API secret, everything. And what I like about this, though, that they do very well, is that instead of me having to go, take each one of these and put them in its own environment variable, it actually puts it all in an environment variable format. So I'm just going to copy that, and I'm just going to put it over in a safe place for now. And I will use this later. So I'm just going to call it my LiveKit info. All right, so we'll come back to that, and we'll use that. So that's really all the things. Oh, and I thought also kind of cool here is that they support webhooks. So if you wanted to be able to trigger some other application or some type of logic somewhere else, you can actually specify webhooks. These are things that will trigger when people do things inside of a room, right? So I thought that was pretty neat and cool of a feature to have. Okay, so now that we've kind of walked through like how to, how the LiveKit dashboard looks, and walk through what's inside of the dashboard and kind of figure out where all the important stuff is. What we're going to do now is actually go back and start walking through the actual code. All right, so this particular project is already in a repo. And that repo is, it will be in the show notes. But I'm going to talk through, the what's in the repo. We're going to set it up and actually show how you can start using this. So this is the README here. So LiveKit actually has support for a number of different programming languages. In my case, I kind of like Python. I like it. It's easy to use, pretty straightforward. So first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to set up a virtual environment, because there's some libraries that needs to be added here, and I don't want to add those to the machine that I'm on. One quick note here is that I'm actually running this on dSIPRouter. As I talked about in the previous video, and I kind of showed a video of that, it really just showed that dSIPRouter comes with with Docker installed, And in the beginning of dSIPRouter, we were going to push a number of new features via Docker images. We just never did it. So it's sitting there, can be used. So what we're doing here, what we will do, and not in this video, but in the next video, we will actually put the LiveKit agent inside of a Docker image, and we'll run it right on the box. Today, I am logged onto the dSIPRouter instance, but I'm actually not going to run it inside of a Docker container. I'm just going to run it on the file system natively for right now. And the next video, we'll actually wrap it up into a Docker container and run it. All right, so what we need to do now is set up Python using a virtual environment here. So I'm just going to cut and paste these steps here. And then from there, I'm going to source this. And activate the actual virtual environment. So now I am running the virtual environment. This is what the parentheses denotes. And then now what I'm going to do is actually install all of the LiveKit requirements. So we'll let that do its thing, which is important here. And I'm just going to make sure, make my screen a little bit bigger here so you can see what's going on. So it is installing all of those libraries. While it's doing that, I am going to real quickly just remind everyone of this, what we're doing today. Oh, it's all done. So we'll come back to that in a little bit. I'll show a little slide that I showed in the first episode, just to make it easier so we're all on the same page. The other thing that you'll need is that you'll need some environment variables. And so I actually ship a sample environment variables with this. And we can actually just take a look at what actually needs to go in this. So what you're going to do is put the LiveKit URL, the LiveKit API key, and the LiveKit API secret. And this, which are important for all agents. Any agents you build, you will need those three things. The things that are optional is I have environment variables that specify the phone number in which we're going to route calls to if you select certain options on the phone assistant. So there's a tech support phone number. There's a environment variable for the billing phone number and the customer service phone number. I'm not going to fill those other two in, but I could. And then the other thing that you'll need is a OpenAI API key. So that's what's going to be that. So LiveKit basically has a plugin architecture where you can use different LLMs for being able to give you certain experience, give the caller a certain experience by using certain LLMs. In this case, we're going to use the OpenAI LLM for this. So I already have this file already in my file system. The file is actually is .env.local. So I'm not going to actually just, I'm just going to use my current file. But I do want to remind you that, remember when we got those values from the portal, we can actually just replace these three lines here if we needed to. If this was like if I already didn't have an environment file, then we could just do this. We just copy these particular environment variables into here that we got from the portal, and we will keep the optional stuff, and then we'll just need to add an API key. Again, I already have all this already set up already in an environment file, so no need to redo that, but just wanted to show that how that works. Okay, so now that we have our environment set up, let's just, this is for giggles, make sure our agent is able to run. So we're running in dev mode here. And if we set the environment up, it actually works here. So just to kind of run through what this is actually doing here is it's starting a worker, right? So worker basically is kind of like, is basically starting up a thread and actually to handle any request that comes from our from the LiveKit environment. So mind you, Twilio will be interacting with the LiveKit cloud. And then from the LiveKit cloud, it's going to say, what workers or what agents do I actually have out there that's available to work on this particular call? And then what's going to happen is it's going to do all the things I talked about. It's going to accept the call and actually have the agent show up to that call and start interacting with the caller. And then it has plugins, like I talked to you before. This is a very I really like the framework they built and made it pluggable, so you can use different LLMs. So you can see here it's using the OpenAI plugin. And another cool thing here is that if you're running this locally, again, I'm running it on the server, so I would have to like do some type of port forwarding in order to see this, which is possible for sure. But if you're running it on your local machine, you can actually just go to this particular address that's highlighted, and you can kind of see what kind of messages the actual agent is receiving from LiveCloud, and to see overall performance of what it's doing. And that's pretty much it. And then from there, you can see it. It once the worker got started, it registers the worker. It has an ID, and here goes the URL in which it's using to register with LiveKit Cloud. So that's pretty much the case here for this. So now that we have this configured, let's go ahead and log into Twilio and go from there. So let's go switch over to doing that. So let me stop this screen, and we're just going to open up a browser, and we're going to go over to Twilio and log in. Okay, so we're going to log in. Okay, so if you don't have to use Twilio, right? So if you have some other provider that you like to use, SIP provider you like to use, go for it. I'm just going to show you how to do it in Twilio, and then you can kind of go from there. So Twilio has a bunch of different services that are available. I'm going to use the Elastic SIP trunking. So I'm going to go to Manage and go to Trunks. And I'm going to find one here. I actually have one I'm already using, so we'll reuse that. So so Twilio has there's a lot of flags here. I won't go through them all, but probably the most important thing, if you want to be able to use this, rather use Twilio in a way that I'm thinking about using them, you need to turn on SIP refer. So this is typically disabled, so you'll enable it. So SIP refer is like the technical name of a call transfer, right? So remember, what we're going to do is that it's going to call into so somebody's going to call into Twilio or use our Twilio number to call. We're going to have Twilio forwarded down to our LiveKit server. And then from there, or LiveKit Cloud, LiveKit Cloud is then going to, basically route it down to our agent. Agent is going to, join the room and start interacting with the user. If they press one of the numbers or say, transfer me to billing, what's going to happen is that call is then going to be sent back to Twilio. as using the SIP refer constructs of SIP. And then from there, Twilio will then route that, create a brand new call to the phone number and the server IP that we want to route the call to, right? So that's really what's going to happen. In essence, what it's going to do is pull LiveKit out of the call path and start a whole brand new call. Sending it directly to, in our case, sending it directly to the tech support system, kind of our made up tech support system that we're kind of replicating here. All right, so so turning on call transfer is important. Origination is the thing that we're going to change. So right now, you can have multiple servers that you send a call to. Right now, it's sending it to this particular server right here, which is the same server that I pointed out when we went through the actual settings here. I just want to confirm it is. I think it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is the same server. So good. So if obviously I already have one here, but you can actually just hit the plus sign and then add that particular SIP URI into the field here, and then hit add basically, and then from there the call would be routed. In my case, you can do waits inside of Twilio, so you can like load balance or these particular origination addresses. So if you have multiple servers or something of that nature, you want to load balance, you could. In my case, I have two servers here. I have one of them disabled and this one enabled. So that's good enough for what we need. So we don't need to do anything else except add a phone number to this because we're not accepting calls inbound. We're actually sending calls outbound. So we need to add a number. I already have one number added to this here, but we can add an additional phone number if we want to. You can just do add number. I already have an existing number, but you can buy a number. So in Twilio, you can just go buy a number and start using that particular number. Or I have I have a couple other numbers that I could use on this as well, but we'll keep with the number that I have. So this is really all you need to do in order to start having this working. Okay, so let's go ahead and go back. Now that our Twilio is set up, let's go back to our into our Visual Studio here. Okay, so now we're back. Our agent is running. I'm going to stop our agent really quickly. And we have to do one more thing here before we can actually call. One, you need to tell LiveKit what phone number can it expect calls to come into your LiveKit project. So I already have a couple of numbers, but I have the LiveKit Agent installed here, or the CLI already installed here. So I'll make sure I add that to the install guide. I don't think I have it here. I don't have it in the README. So actually, do I? I do actually. I do. I have a link to installing the LiveKit CLI. There's a couple of things you got to do. So let's take a look. Actually, here I'll just use Visual Studio. How about that? So we're going to replace the inbound call. So there's a inbound truck.json. So I give it a name. Now let's get my inbound trunk. I give it a couple of phone numbers. If you remember, the number from Twilio was this number here. So what this is going to basically say is that any calls that the LiveKit cloud receives from this number, it will accept. So that's what that does. You can actually run this by doing LiveKit SIP inbound, and you can call the inbound trunk.json. Well, I already have this already installed here or already configured. And I'm sorry, I don't have the LiveKit on the server, but I have the LiveKit on my local machine. So we'll do this one more time. I think I have it SIP inbound. And I can do a LK for LiveKit, SIP, inbound, and list. So you can see I have these two phone numbers here, my inbound trunk. Now, I was playing around with this, so I don't really, you can notice here that the name doesn't need to be unique here, but what it does, it creates a SIP trunk ID. So that's how you could refer to it in other configuration settings within LiveKit. And you can specify where do you want calls to come from? Like what addresses do you want to accept calls? Like if I really want to lock this down, I can put the Twilio IP addresses, the signaling IP addresses. So where does it expect to get traffic? Any IPs that we know that's going to send traffic to LiveKit, I could put it here, and that will ensure that we're only receiving traffic from known IP addresses. Then we also can set up authentication, encryption. We can specify certain headers that's going to be used as well. I have not used these things yet, but they're all there. So there's a lot of flexibility around this as well. And the last thing we will need to do is that we will need to use a dispatch. So a dispatch setting. So dispatch, you can specify a rule here, and inside this rule, you can actually have, you can have two attributes part of this dispatch rule. One's a rule that basically says, any room that can get created with a call hyphen, use the room config, and that room config basically says that add an agent to it by the name of my telephony agent. And you'll see what that means. That's basically just saying, hey, whenever a call comes in, basically route this particular call to an agent with the name my telephony agent. And guess what? Inside of our code, we actually specify the name of the actual agent. So let's go ahead and now call this. Let me actually go back to my dSIPRouter box, and I'm going to actually start this back up. Okay. I'm going to place a call to that number. I'll get the number here. And I'm going to do 1-313-612-9074. And let's see what actually happens here when this occurs.
Hello, thank you for contacting us. You can press 1 for billing, 2 for technical support, or 3 for customer service. How can I assist you today?
2 for technical support.
I'm transferring you to our technical support department now. Please hold. I apologize for the inconvenience. Let's try again. I'm transferring you to our technical support department now. Please hold.
All right. So let's go through what actually happened here. So, right. So we left off the last time by specifying that we received that the worker was registered. And now what you received was a job request came in. So, right. So call came into LiveKit Cloud from Twilio. It saw the call, and then it basically said, hey, this call needs to have an agent. And then what it did is said, hey, what agents are registered? And since we only have one, it says, hey, let me send a job down there. So receive the job request. So initialize the process, process initialize. It does some things here that I'm not exactly sure exactly what it's doing here, but it's activated the phone assistant. And then it starts reading the stream. And this is, my phone number coming off here. And then it executes a tool. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. And this is a tool, which basically a tool gives the LLM, which is what we were interacting with, the ability to actually do tasks. And in this case, the task or tool that it has is called transfer to tech support. And then it tried to transfer me to tech support. And then it says fill the call, because I did remove this API by accident. So I'm going to put that back into my logic, and then that should be fine. But that doesn't really matter. What I'm trying to show here is that the flow of how LiveKit Cloud interacts with agents running on your local servers, or if you had it sitting in the cloud, right? So imagine if I had, 2 dSIPRouter instances that's already, I'm already paying for the compute power. I might as well use the dSIPRouter Docker images, Docker containers to actually run my actual agent code, because I can have multiple agents I can have an agent on each one of those servers. And so they'll both be registered with LiveKit Cloud. And then I'm assuming it's doing some type of load balancing or something like that in order to figure out who to route the request to, which I think is super dope. Great utilization of WebSockets here, because the great thing about WebSockets is this two-way communication, which is dope. Okay, so now that we've done this, we are now ready to kind of dig into the code. So I want to dig in a little bit here, but we're going to come back on the next video and really talk through it in more detail. So let's go dig into the agent.py. Okay, so what you can see here is that there's a bunch of libraries here that's from LiveKit that needs to be added. There's a logger. There's a class called phone assistant, and it actually inherits from another class called agent, which is provided by LiveKit. So really, we're just giving basically the agent object new behavior. In this case, one of the functions is a init function. We define some instructions here, and these instructions is what's going to be used by the LLM when talking to us. And then we also have a on enter, so meaning whenever somebody calls and enters the room, the actual agent is going to say, hi, thanks for calling the open source, blah blah blah. You can press 1 for billing, 2 for technical support. And then from there, it outputs it when somebody enters in the room. And then you have the concept of function tools. And function underscore tool is a special annotation that basically defines a function that allows the LLM to really communicate uh, with what gives basically, I kind of look at it like this. It kind of gives LLM skills. Okay. So in this case, the skill that is actually going to have here is how to transfer to billing. And you can see here that we have a few of the, you have three of them: transfer to tech support and transfer to customer service. We'll go into more details in a upcoming video about this, but if you whatever one you select, then it's going to basically um, transfer the call, and the transfer actually happens in a function here called transfer SIP participant request. So it passes in some information about the user, the room that the user's in, and then the transfer to. That's going to be the phone number that is used to transfer to the actual to the department that actually has people on the other side of of that line to talk to you. Uh, and I think the last thing I'll talk about here is that you also can press actual digits on the actual phone as well, and you can do that by using the DTMF handler. So there's a handler that can be used to handle any numbers that are actually pressed. So I thought that was pretty cool. So the user has the option of either doing um, saying where they want, what department they want to go to, or pressing numbers as well. And then the last thing I'm just going to talk about and hit on this really quickly is that you have the entry point. Entry point is like the main entry point for the phone assistant. So it basically captures all the user data. It actually starts an agent session. It actually is used to specify what LLM you're going to use. So I think that's pretty dope there. And then the last thing that we're going to talk about is the agent name. So this is the actual name of the actual agent that's being that we're actually building here. So if you remember, when we actually define the dispatch rule, we actually specified that when a actual call comes in, we're going to route it to this agent name, my telephony agent. So that agent name is defined here inside of the agent. And finally, this all happens within 259 lines of code. So I think this is pretty dope. Obviously, there's libraries that's doing the heavy lifting here, but from an end user point of view, it's pretty dope. So I thought that was really cool. So okay, I think what we've done here is gave a great overview of how we can start using this.